Hi, IMS families. Welcome to our next installment of our Grading for Equity videos. I'm Mary Jo Budges, one of your co-principals, and the rest of the team will introduce themselves to you as well.
Good morning or afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Aaron Miller, the other co-principal here at IMS.
Hi, I'm Whitney Swope, and I teach 8th grade language arts and leadership, and I'm also a teacher leader for our grading work.
Hi there, I'm Tanya Van Orden. I teach 7th and 8th grade science and also do a lot of teacher leadership and professional development.
So we want to start just digging into the fact that the work that we're doing this year at IMS really is research-based. It comes from professional practices supported by professional development, digging into professional research. And we have looked for several years at people like Marzano and Stiggins and Hattie and what it is that they're saying about our grading practices and the influence that that has on our actions in the classroom, and that is really driving our work. It also bubbled up from our staff as an interest point as we were looking at different initiatives that we have in our school. And we had a team several years ago that started investigating standards-based grading. And as they learned more and studied more about standards-based grading, we really grew that initiative into what is today our Grading for Equity work.
I was a member of that grading team, and the more we read, the more we researched, the more urgent this work started to feel as I looked inwardly at my own grading practices and started to think about what is best for my learners and for all of my learners. And the changes that have come out of that have come from that research and the team discussing where we were at then and where we wanted to get to as a team.
We also have been listening to our kids. We really looked at the research from Dr. Luthar when she came and talked to us in 2019 and heard about our kids and the stress and anxiety that they are experiencing through their school years. And that also was a driver for our work.
So one of our major goals with our shift in grading practices is to really center learning. And we're centering learning for our teaching staff and our whole staff community as we think about how we can be innovative in how we approach learning for our students. And a lot of that has taken significant learning and research on our part as we've learned how to be flexible and adapt to the needs of our students. But we are trying to increase how we are inclusionary for all students and meet the needs of our learners wherever they're at. And so innovating that learning has looked like asking, how do I give assessments? How can I give students more choice and voice in their learning? And that innovation process is a journey that we are starting on and have been on for a number of years now.
I'd just like to add to that, Whitney. I think one of the questions we're getting is, why is it grading for equity? And I think when we talk about grading for equity, it really reflects the fact that all of our students are different and their learning styles are different. Some kids get things at a slower pace than others, faster pace than others, demonstrate their learning in different ways. So when we talk about equity, it's equity around learning. And I think that's an important point to bring across in this video.
One of the things that we are also holding as a core value, a centering point, if you will, is that there are long-term essential skills that students benefit from. We also sometimes call them transferable skills. So if I'm a science teacher, there are skills that I would like students to learn that they can use in other areas in science, but I would also like those skills to be able to transfer to social studies, language arts, their extracurricular areas. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. And if it is truly essential and transferable to other academic areas, other growth areas in life, students get repeated feedback on that multiple times throughout the trimester. So that's what we mean when we hold it central. We communicate what that area is and work on it with kids deliberately in class. And then, like I said, they get multiple opportunities to get feedback on it and grow based on that feedback.
So both for Tanya and Whitney, So are the essential skills, are they content skills? Are they process skills? How would you describe, is it a combination of both? How would you describe those in your content area and maybe broadly in our teaching staff?
I would describe them as process skills, but in order to do the process, it rests on content. So we have very rigorous content at Islander Middle School, but we don't really want to value memorizing facts and memorizing content. We want to value being able to use it and apply it. So I would define them as process skills, but they're heavily dependent on some foundation. And it also creates a need for that foundation, a buy-in, if you will. That is the hope and the plan, is that the need for the information, the need for a particular vocabulary word makes it more authentic.
And that allows us more flexibility for student choice. If we take a firm goal of, I want students to be able to, for example, develop and understand a theme in a text, then a student is allowed to have more flexibility on what that text might look like or be, and they can have more buy-in for what it is that they're reading. Sometimes we're going to have full class experiences, but it opens up the pathway for students to have more choice and feel like they are the driver of their learning.
Mary Jo, can you go back one slide? I think we might have skipped over one slide there. There it is.
So for proficiency scales, each of our content teams are working really hard on developing our proficiency scales for students. And they start with the standards that Tanya was talking about. And we ask ourselves, we plan backwards and we say, where do we want our students to get to? And how are we going to have them self-tracking and track alongside of them with feedback, how they are reaching those skills that we want them to? And so we are developing these proficiency scales as teams that can be used across the building instead of each teacher deciding it for themselves what it looks like. We're really norming and talking about what are the different levels of this, and then what are the supports that we are going to build in to help students reach the level that they have set as a goal for themselves. And so, you know, for example, right now, my team is developing a proficiency scale for our upcoming unit, and we're talking about what is the evidence that we will accept for each of those levels and building those student examples and resources to support students to reach their goals on those proficiency scales.
And what I love about what Tanya said earlier is that our standards, our curriculum, our content is rigorous here at IMS. And when we have kids reaching for a 3 on a proficiency scale, that is really high level work that we're asking them to do. And we are excited about providing all kids opportunities to reach for the 4, and that we are going to make that very clear and obvious, and we will be practicing together in our classrooms 4-level thinking and 4-level skills so that kids have a sense of what that means when we're talking about it.
So I am new to this initiative, quite frankly. So I'm really just 2 months in, and a good science example that we're working on is being able to construct an explanation and design a solution. And what I'm seeing so far already, just in 2 months, is that because of the scale and because of the value on a transferable skill, and like Mary Jo was just saying, that there's a level 3 and it's really clear, but then there's also this above and beyond. What I'm experiencing is that students are more likely to ask for feedback on their work now. I've always wanted them to do that. I have begged them to do that, but now it is built in and they're doing it. And then of course, I've always wanted their learning to stick, but because now they're asking for the feedback, the 3 is clear, the 4 is clear, the learning is also sticking more, is what I'm seeing so far, because the students are accessing it and driving what level they're at, and then doing some self-assessment because of how the descriptions are written. I'm seeing learning stick and be transferable.
So one of the things that it looks a lot different in our classrooms is the grade marks. And we are really focusing going away from the gathering of points to the actual process of learning. And it does look different. It's different from what, sorry about that. It's different from what we're used to in the past. If you remember, in an old system, ultimately it would end up, you would have some assignments, some tests and quizzes, and you would take the number of points you received, divided by the number of points possible, and that gave a score. But really, we're trying to get away from those things, that process, really towards the evidence of learning. So providing students multiple opportunities in multiple ways in order to demonstrate their evidence. Some of the evidence they're presenting is practice and prepares them for that evidence collection. But other things like quizzes and tests, projects, labs in science, there's lots of discussions, individual conversation with teachers. There's lots of ways that kids are providing evidence. And so teachers are able to go back and look at a proficiency scale and adjust along the way based on increasing numbers of evidence. It's almost like gamifying the system where kids are building up their knowledge of evidence and showing teachers, and teachers are able to have the opportunity to go back and change proficiency scale markings based on the evidence. So it's something that we're learning as a system, is how to expand what we consider evidence and how we're going to use that evidence to show learning. So it's not just a averaging across a trimester or a year, but it's really showing, what is this kid showing they know and are able to do? Where does it fit on the progression of learning? And using that evidence to determine what the grade mark may be. It is a change, though. We will be including to families this resource hub that we've created for families, with lots of different resources for you to go out and find more. We think it's important to include you guys as much as possible and part of our team on this. And many of the things are different than what we experienced as students when we were in the classroom a long time ago. And so we'll be sending this out for you, and we would encourage you guys to go on there, take a look at some or all the resources in order to help make things more clear. In addition, one of the things that we realize we need to continue to work on with families is how to figure out where's the story being kept for my kids' learning. Some of the story is in Skyward. For some teachers, there's a lot of information in Schoology as well, but we understand that families want to know how their kids are doing in both academics, but also academic habits that we all know are essential. And so our next video that we'll be coming up with will really talk about how to dig into Skyward, how to see that feedback, how to look at Schoology and see some information there. So that'll be an upcoming video that we'll have for you as we partner along this journey.
We really want to thank you for your partnership in this. And we also want to recognize that it is messy right now. We are in a major learning year. Tanya was saying she's been along on this ride for about 2 months. For Whitney, it's been more like 4 years. So we are all in different places, but our heart is with kids. Our heart is that our students understand where they are in the learning journey, that they are challenged and supported and engaged in the learning process, and that how we're reporting that out to our kids and families makes sense for them to know what the next steps in learning are. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you, and we'll look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you.